that 3,000 were added to the number that day. I thought, isn't that ironic? Now, we don't have 3,000 here, but who knows? You know what I'm saying? Back in the day, in the first centuries of the church, it was very dangerous to be a Christian. Some places in our world today, it's very dangerous to be a Christian. We don't really experience that firsthand. I mean, really, in the early centuries of the church, and even now in some places in the world, to practice your faith openly, you will be killed. Or your family might be killed. Or you might lose your property. Or they might take away what you have. In our area of the world, it's a little more subtle. That we are also persecuted. But it's subtle because at times it is because of the Pentecostal evangelical churches or whatever else who are soliciting us to leave our Catholic faith with promises of more entertainment or more community or whatever else. Sometimes they will even say, if you're not Catholic anymore, then you don't have to worry about going to hell because Catholics are going to hell, etc., etc. Sometimes it's even more subtle that it's not that they attack us directly, but that the world lures us away with all kinds of licentiousness or promises of prosperity and glory through the media, primarily. And so we are a persecuted church, and in the early centuries of the church, it was necessary, because they were persecuted, to decide who is one of us and who are not among us. Because there were spies. People would come into the church just to find out what they were doing and then report back to Caesar or whoever else so that they could persecute them more. And so it's necessary to find out who is a part and who is not. It required an investment of those people on a certain scale, an investment of their very lives. Because it wasn't just them, it was their families. And it wasn't simply visiting someone's house to have Mass. It was investment in a family. Now you know as well as I do, you don't get to pick your family. You're kind of born into it, for better or for worse, richer or poor, etc., etc. And so we have some family members that we can't stand. That we have some that just grate on our nerves. That we have some that we cannot like. We just can't. We have some who have hurt us very deeply. And they're very hard to forgive. That's the nature of family. And yet within family, there's a certain understanding. It's like we can mess with each other, but you can't mess with us. We can, holler and carry on and fight among us. But if you attack me, well, then you attack my whole family. And I'm going to back them up. That's what the church is called to be. You can't choose who you're a member of the church with. You can choose who you sit next to most of the time. Because you all sit in the same seats every day. That's how I take attendance when I'm up here, I can tell. The fact is, we don't get a pick who we're in the church with. And it's enough that we love them. We don't always have to like them. They're going to be hard to live with sometimes. They might be difficult to forgive. But they're a member of a family. And you know as well as I do, any good family has the participation of everybody. It's not just one or two people within the family who support the family, it's everybody. And so we all need to contribute the gifts that God has given us. I was assigned in the summer one year as a seminarian to St. Francis in Harrisburg. And next weekend we're going to take a trip to Cape May. We did something similar with them. We went to the beach for a weekend. We went with 7 other churches. And so I'm assigned to St. Francis. And the first thing I'm supposed to do is take these kids, these teenagers, down to the beach. And I have to be honest with you, I looked at them and I thought, who are these miscreants? Or these delinquents? Because they were rough around the edges, there's no doubt about it. They were city kids. They grew up that way. And so they had to be tough and they had to be street smart. So anyway, I'm riding in the van with a volunteer who was with us and kind of a carryover from the 60s. So he's just like cool with everything. It doesn't matter too much. And so I'm thinking, okay, here we have 2 poles. And the guy that doesn't care about anything, he's going to let him do whatever. And then you have me who's so worried about liability and everything else that they're probably not going to have fun. So we arrive on the camp, and there are about 200 kids, 200 teenagers. It's like a nightmare. It really is. And first thing that happens, this young priest gets up and he goes down a list of all the things they are not allowed to do. And it went on and on and on. And you could see their countenance dropping. I mean, these kids were just getting, oh my gosh, this is going to be terrible. It's going to be torture and everything else. So we finished this whole rap session. And they're going away, they're getting to their bunks, and it's starting to get dark. And so a lot of the kids from the other churches are saying, oh, this, you know, this is terrible, it's boring, whatever. The kids we took said something else. They said, well, they didn't say we couldn't make a bonfire. And so they made a bonfire. And they took these trash cans, and they turned the trash cans over, and they took two kind of branches from these trees, and they started playing like drums. You have a giant bonfire. You have 200 kids. You have a few of them picking up these trash cans and beating them like drums. All of a sudden, you have a movement of a body of dancing teenagers. It was like a party you would never see before. And I thought to myself, oh my gosh, look at them. And here they were told they couldn't do this, this, and this. And who were the kids who came up and said, well, we can do this? It was these kids that I looked at as miscreants, that I just got to keep my eye on. They led the group of 200, they led them that whole weekend. Now, whenever there was some kind of activity, they said, oh, let's do this and that. It was so much fun. And at times, I just, oh, don't do that. But for the most part, everyone arrived safely and soundly back home. And I think about that often because, at first glance, many of these kids may not have seemed to have too much to offer in the way of leadership or anything else. And yet they contributed what they had, and it was fantastic. Now, we did have to replace the trash cans, obviously. But it was fantastic. I'd say the same thing is true here. You know, I don't know how to roof a building. I really don't. But I know how to pick up shingles and throw them in the trash. I know how to sweep the floor. That I may not know how to move a large crowd through the streets for the way of the cross. But I know people who do. And I can pray the prayers that I need to do or whatever else. That I may not be the most sound person to decorate a church for Christmas or Easter or anything else. But there are those individuals who do know how to do that. And I can certainly wrap flowers and foil or whatever else. You see, we all have gifts that we have been given. And we might say at times, well, I don't have anything to contribute. Or, I don't have any money that I can give to the church. But if you can't make donuts, at least you can serve them. If you can't make breakfast, at least you can put out plates or run a dry mop afterwards. There's something that every single one of us can do. And I tell this story to a certain extent because one of those kids is here and has done very well for himself. And no doubt that experience contributed to that. And so today, as part of this Catholic Christian family, I'm asking you after Mass to take the short walk across the street and to see the great things that our parish is doing right now. That maybe you've been here for quite some time, you've been worshiping with us, but you're not ready to commit. You're like the tourist that comes in, you celebrate Mass, put your envelope in, and leave. But we don't need transients in the church. We need family members. We need people who are willing to commit themselves, both financially, but also through their work, and their prayer, and celebrating with us. So after Mass, I won't preach you after Mass, I'll be going over and I'll be making sure you go over if I can. And just go over there, there's fresh donuts, there's refreshments, there will be representatives from the parish organizations there, pastoral council will be there. You know, and to really feel part of something greater than ourselves. That we don't speak with only our voice. We speak with the voice of the family. The voice of the shepherd is waiting to be